Hi, and welcome back to the Drama-Free Healthy Living podcast. I'm so happy you're here. I'm taking some time off to focus more on my family, but in the meantime, I'm sharing some of my old favorite solo episodes with you. I hope you find this one helpful on your health and fitness journey. And if you want regular nutrition and wellness tips, join me at jessicacording.substack.com. When you subscribe, you'll get a free guide on what to eat to manage stress. And don't forget to follow me on social media if you want to stay in touch. I'm most active on Instagram at Jess Cording. See you soon. Welcome to Drama-Free Healthy Living with Jess Cording. I'm your host, Jess Cording. I'm a registered dietitian, health coach, and author, and I'm here to help you streamline your wellness routine and establish a sane, more balanced relationship with food and fitness so you can reach your goals without losing your mind. On this podcast, we'll talk about nutrition, exercise, self-care, mindset, and more. I'll be bringing you interviews and expert insight on the topics that matter to your health and wellness. Hey guys, welcome to Drama-Free Healthy Living with Jess Cording. I'm your host, Jess Cording, and I've got a short and sweet solo episode for you today about a topic I love to talk about, how to build a healthy plate. So seriously, I get asked about this all the time. I'm very often asked, should I be counting calories? Should I be weighing and measuring my food? How do I know what's the right amount? And I understand this stuff can be a little overwhelming, especially because we live in a society that's very much about obsessing over what you eat and taking all the joy out of it. A technique I've been using with my patients and clients for many years now is something I like to call the Overthink-Proof Plate. I mean, we have enough to think about, so why don't we make this part a little easier? I'm going to just share today several of the formulas that I recommend to help yourself enjoy a balanced meal and snack to promote optimal well-being. I like these formulas because they are flexible and versatile, and they help you keep an open mind with what you're eating. They're things that you can apply to so many different situations. You don't have to feel like you need to be weighing and measuring all your food or counting your calories or your macros, but it's just helping you know that at least you're having a balanced meal that is helping stabilize your blood sugar, energy, mood, and also if you are working towards, say, a weight loss goal or another goal where maybe in another approach to be encouraged to be counting calories, it's kind of something that's going to be appropriate for those goals as well without having you feel like you're having to overthink everything. So, the Overthink-Proof Plate, let's talk about it. But before we get to that, I wanted just to share a quick question that I've been getting this question actually a lot recently, but this was actually a recent listener question, and it leads into this discussion of the Overthink-Proof Plate, and that is popcorn a healthy snack? I always am interested when I get these questions about what's a healthy snack, what's not a healthy snack, because I always want to know where that question came from. Did somebody make that person second guess what they were eating? Or are they seeing something on social media that's making them think about, okay, well, what should I be eating? Am I eating the right things? So popcorn is something, I don't know, maybe someone has a vendetta against popcorn right now. We're still in a very carb-phobic media cycle. There is that. But generally speaking, I'm totally cool with popcorn. What I like about it, it's a whole grain. And for people who really like to eat a large volume of food, so if you are someone who is stress eating and you want something that takes a long time to eat, you like crunchy things, I think popcorn is a really approachable option because when you compare it to something like chips or crackers, the volume that you can have, about 3 cups is about a serving of popcorn, which is going to give you some fiber, it's going to give you complex carbohydrate, tiny bit of protein, not a lot. And it's got that crunchy texture, but a serving of like chips, crackers, that's like maybe 10 chips, a few crackers, like it's a lot less to look at on the plate or in the bowl. So that's one reason I found that popcorn actually has been a good option for a lot of my patients and clients over the years, especially if they're going through a stressful time when they want to have something that can kind of be an easy snack for those days that they do feel like they're prone to stress snacking. Because I don't know, I think we should be real. Like, yeah, I mean, it'd be great for me to tell you, well, if you're eating perfectly balanced meals and snacks, you will lose the desire to stress eat, and I can't promise that. I mean, have you watched the news or listened to the news? Like, There's a lot to be stressed about in today's world, and I think sometimes it's really important for me as a clinician to be meeting somebody where they're at and coming up with a strategy that's going to work for them. But one thing to keep in mind though, just about popcorn, I mean, yes, it's a great source of complex carbohydrate, and it does take a lot longer to break down than some other more simple refined carbs. That said, you still need some protein and or fat to slow down that digestive process and help give it more staying power. So, and I'll explain this in a moment, but I tend to recommend adding something with protein like nutritional yeast or maybe a little Parmesan cheese or having it with some nuts or something like that that's going to just add a little protein or fat to help it support more stable blood sugar. So, and this is taking into mind the Overthink-Proof Plate formula that I like to use for snacks. So let's talk about the plate first though. So, I don't necessarily mean like a giant boat-sized like serving platter. Obviously that's a much different situation, but I mean just like your average dinner plate. Yes, I know that dinner plates tend to be larger than they were 20, 30 years ago, but just generally speaking, you got your plate of food. Okay. So I recommend filling half that plate with non-starchy veggies. All the colorful stuff, your broccoli, your cauliflower, your leafy greens, asparagus, zucchini, all that stuff. Botanically, I know that some of these things are fruit, like cucumbers and zucchini and tomatoes, but nutritionally speaking, you're getting what you would find in a non-starchy vegetable as well. So I'd say load up on that stuff. You're getting lots of important vitamins and minerals, plenty of fiber, which is going to help make that meal filling. And all that color is very satisfying visually. As humans, we are very visual creatures, so seeing a plate that looks nice can help us have a better experience while we're eating it. Then you want a quarter of that plate to be some kind of protein. I tend to recommend very more on the sides of fish, poultry, eggs. I'm also a big fan of beans, peas, lentils, whole soy like tofu, tempeh, edamame is another example. And a little bit less on the red meat, the processed meat. We do know from research that overdoing it with those has been tied to increased risk of many different adverse health conditions. And then I'm also not a big fan of the fake meat products. Like once in a while, I think there can be a place for it, but just to treat them like any processed food. I think in some ways they can be at times a better option depending on someone's health needs than maybe the processed meat product, but they're still a processed food. So a little goes a long way. But generally speaking, other protein sources, nuts and seeds, nutritional yeast. I know dairy is super controversial, but I still recommend for people who like dairy, who tolerate dairy, that in moderation, incorporating some high quality dairy products like plain Greek yogurt, kefir, using cheese as a garnish, like that's fine. But generally speaking, you do want to have about a quarter of your plate being some protein. And then you have, one more quarter of the plate left. So what's that going to be? For some people, they feel best when that last quarter of the plate is a serving of starch. Again, I tend to encourage the more complex carbs. So things like whole grains, sweet potatoes, very high fiber fruits like berries, and a little bit less on the side of like the white breads, white pastas. I'm not anti-white potato though, especially if you leave the skin on, you're still getting a lot of fiber, and even white potatoes have lots of vitamins and minerals like vitamin A and potassium, so definitely I'm cool with potatoes. We do not have to eliminate those. And they're gluten-free, so if you're someone who needs to be limiting gluten intake or looking for things you can eat, potatoes are a great thing to work with. Winter squash. I'm recording this just as the weather's starting to settle into fall, so that's kind of on my mind. So lots of great options there too. Some people feel better with slightly smaller servings of carbohydrates, so for those people, maybe their version of the Overthink-Proof Plate has that last quarter of the plate being a little bit starch, so maybe an eighth of the plate is starch, and then that last little bit is some extra healthy fat, maybe a garnish of nuts or seeds, some avocado slices, little guacamole or hummus, beautiful thing. So I tend to recommend following that formula for at least one of your meals a day, though I encourage 2 meals, so maybe lunch and dinner. And then let's talk about breakfast, because that's another question I get, because sometimes I'll share that formula and people are like, well, I don't eat vegetables at breakfast. Some people do. I know I happen to love savory breakfast that includes vegetables, but hey, variety and mixing it up, and we all have different needs, different preferences. But generally speaking, whether you're doing vegetables or not at breakfast, you want to have something with protein, So that could be coming from eggs, or maybe you're putting some peanut butter on oatmeal, or maybe you're using some collagen powder in your coffee, you're putting a protein powder in a smoothie, or using milk that has protein in it, like obviously dairy milk or pea protein milk or soy milk. It could be something like cottage cheese or yogurt, just a few examples, but something with protein. So protein, and then something with fat. So that might be a little avocado or guacamole. Or I also sometimes, depending on just if someone's not super hungry in the morning, eating something like a whole egg, you're getting protein and you're getting fat from that. So that could cover two bases there. Just a few examples though. Or like I said a moment ago, peanut butter on your oatmeal, obviously almond butter, sunflower seed butter, really just depending on your preferences or if you have any allergies. So you want some protein, you want some fat, and then you want something with fiber. So this could be something like oats or a whole grain cereal. This could be adding chia or flax seeds to something. This could be fruit. A lot of fruits are very high in fiber. We don't have to be scared of fruit, people. This could be whole grain toast. Or then there's certain foods like avocados, for example, which are providing healthy fats, but then they also have a lot of fiber. So lots of options. And then the last formula I like to share is a snack formula, which, again, looking at stabilizing blood sugar through the day. Like the meals that I just described, when we have anything with carbohydrate, that causes our blood sugar to go up as we digest those foods. It's a normal physiological response. It's supposed to happen. It's how we get energy. We get that quick hit of energy if we don't have enough of a balance to make sure that the digestive process is slow enough to support a more slow and steady increase and then decrease in blood sugar as those foods digest and are processed in the body. When our blood sugar is not well controlled, that's when we might find ourselves feeling really hungry randomly and kind of get frustrated by that. We might experience mood swings, cravings. I might have a harder time dealing with stress. So those are just a few of the ways that we can, in day-to-day life, we can feel the impacts of unstable blood sugar. So snacks can also support this. I think it's important to have meals that are meant to stabilize blood sugar, but then we also can use snacks strategically, especially if we have long stretches between our meals. So I always will use this example, like if you're having lunch at noon and dinner's not till like 6, 7 o'clock, like it is totally normal to need a snack during the afternoon. I can't tell you how many times I've had to make someone like just validate like the fact that they get hungry. Like it's normal, it's okay. So a snack, you want something that's providing fiber. So that could be from a grain product like whole grain bread or crackers or a piece of fruit. It could be, again, avocado. Sliced vegetables are another great way to get a lot of fiber in. So a lot of options to work with. And then you want something with fat and or protein. So maybe that's guacamole or hummus or nut butter. So for example, maybe you're having some veggies and guac as a snack. Or you're having a slice of toast with nut butter or a piece of fruit with nut butter. Maybe you're having some Greek yogurt with some berries or some chia seeds. All just very simple examples of some foods that are providing that combination to, again, keep your blood sugar stable so you're not getting ravenous between meals and that you're able to make clear-headed choices at your next eating occasion. You know, I have found in practice that people who restrict too much during the day or who don't allow themselves to eat well-balanced meals and snacks or eat enough at those meals and snacks, those are the people who are more likely to be picking on things later in the day or overdoing it on snacks at night. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you struggle with overdoing it in the evening, look at what you're eating during the day. You might not be eating enough. And I know sometimes that's something people are shocked that I'm telling them to eat more during the day. And this is like a very diet culture-y thing for a lot of folks, but this idea that you need to somehow save your calories for late in the day. And I tend to encourage, when are you busy? When do you get hungry? When do you need the energy? That's when you should be having adequate calories. I would say one exception to this Overthink-Proof Plate rule is if it's like the end of the day and you're really not that physically hungry, but you just want a little something sweet after dinner, again, don't beat yourself up over this. I'm so fascinated that this desire to enjoy a little something sweet at the end of the day or at the end of a meal, that's been kind of framed as a habit, like a bad thing we need to stop doing. It blows my mind. But I don't know, and I feel like maybe this is like inner like old Italian lady or something, but like I feel like pleasure is so important when it comes to what we're eating, and it's part of enjoying life. And when we try to take away all the things that are pleasurable or assign negative meaning to them arbitrarily, like what good does that do us, right? So if you do want something sweet in the evening, from a blood sugar standpoint, the best time to have it is at the end of a meal that provides some protein and fat and fiber, because that way you're gonna be, especially if it's something sweet that has sugar, again, carbs, which is more likely to spike your blood sugar if you eat it on an empty stomach. That little bit of something nice, it's gonna be a nice pleasurable experience, but it's not gonna jack your blood sugar and send you on a roller coaster for the next few hours. So if you are someone who enjoys a piece of chocolate at the end of your day, like, hey, I support that. You heard it here, folks. Your dietitian told you to eat chocolate if you want chocolate. So that's it. If you notice it's becoming a habit, or you find it hard to stop at just 1 or 2 pieces and it doesn't feel good, that's a time to get curious about where that's coming from, kind of what's going on, and figure out an approach that is going to work for you. Whether it's something you feel like you're able to figure out for yourself on your own, or if it helps, work with a licensed professional like an RD. We specialize in this stuff. So I hope you found these tips helpful. The Overthink-Proof Plate is just a technique I like to use with my patients and clients to simplify healthy eating, and I hope you find it useful too. As always, guys, have a wonderful day. We'll talk soon. Thank you for listening to Drama-Free Healthy Living with Jess Cording. We'll see you next time.